What's up? You be like, Okay. So,
me when we had a very recent election and swearing in just 2 weeks ago for Representative James Waukesha from, and I think that he was elected on a Tuesday and sworn in 24 hours later without official results. And so now we're hearing that the rules might be changing for me. And it's problematic for a number of people, especially for the thousands that elected me to be their voice in Congress.
Do you have a sense of when you would be sworn in, if they're waiting for the official tally or otherwise? Have you been given a date range or a date certain?
You know, I really don't know. I can look, I can sort of gauge from how long it took with the primary election for us to be right, and it was 17 days. We have 6 counties in Arizona CD7, and every county board of supervisors needs to vote and approve the canvas, and then it goes to the Secretary of State. And so there is a process, but I am nearly 40 points ahead of my nearest opponent. So it is a very significant difference, and there is no recount that's going to be demanded in this case. The winner is clear.
Sounds like you want to be there and to get started, and that sort of gamesmanship, I'm not sure how it would serve the people who want you to represent them in Arizona at the very least. You know, we're days away, even though you're coming on Monday, we're days away from another prospective shutdown at the end of this month. And today, on Truth Social, President Trump decided that meeting with Democratic congressional leaders would not be helpful or productive. What is your stance on whether or not Senate Democrats should hold out their support for a short-term funding bill to avert a shutdown?
My thought would be it would be incumbent upon him to find out why is it that Senate Democrats are holding back. And really what we're trying to do as a Democratic Party is prioritize health care, to give people what they need in order to make sure that they can have a quality of life that all of us want, and not go into debt because they've lost their ACA and Medicare and Medicaid. And those cuts are going to be really devastating. And so I believe very strongly it's an issue that everyone in the nation can understand and respect. And what the Democratic Party is doing is fighting for the people.
Congresswoman-elect, I have to ask you, when I read this fact, it took me aback for a second because I was shocked that it has taken till now. But I understand that you are the first Latina to represent the state of Arizona. You have shattered quite a barrier. What does that feel like?
We broke that glass ceiling together. And really what it means is for so many young people in our communities that are also Mexican American, Chicana, to have somebody that they can look to say, you know, if she can do it, that girl from Tucson Southside, then I can do it too. And that is what we want. We want to have more representation of the people that are in our communities around tables of power and making decisions. And that's going to be critically important. And so I take that responsibility very seriously. I want to make sure too that I might be the first, but I absolutely will not be the last Latina from Arizona in office.
Congresswoman-elect Adelita Grijalva, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
And thank you all for watching. Anderson Cooper 360 is next.
Have I Got News for You, Saturday at 9 on CNN. Amazon offers hourly employees health care on day one for the whole family.
Mom, come away!
Go! Yes!
Should I get that a Band-Aid?
At Amazon, hourly employees earn an average of over $23 an hour.
All right, what are we thinking?
Megaphone.
Megaphone. Oh, I guess this is mine now.
Hey.
With less pain and swelling from active psoriatic arthritis. Imagine being a million miles away. With Tremfya, less joint pain, stiffness, and swelling is possible. Some patients even felt less fatigue. serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check your food infections and
Okay, we got two teams. Split up and hit your objectives. I'm setting up a healthy atmosphere of competitiveness. Here's that. Station team, you're going for the Bolingbroke transit schedule. If you got the right uniforms, but they'll be no good to you if you turn up on foot or in civilian transportation. Get a hold of a cop car using any means necessary. Then you can go to the station, and I shouldn't need to say this. Don't get yourselves killed.
But Scott Risky, I saw dramatically clearer skin. And many people just overdoses a year after 2 starter doses.
increased allergic, serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower level may occur. Before treatment, you check for infection continuity. Your doctor will include medicines and vaccines.
That's really without Scott Risky. Dermatologists prescribe biologic insurance. They're now happy to help you save it.
His eyes make a rest.
They take it all in.
These eyes deserve better care.
Thumbs up the best.
So these eyes go to America Best.
Where they get you from lead theater.
We bring high-quality eyes to America's Best.
You deserve the best. Performance, durability, importance. Only one place does it all. Whatever you do it for less. Harbor Freight. 10 straight days of incredible deals. Going on now for October 1st.
Parents, it's go time. Welcome to Go Kids Vet Sale is happening now. With one vet starting at $199. Save on the poultry vet, day vet, bugs, and more. Like our new Team Rottweiler collection. Want to save even more? This twin vet is just $3.99. The whole room, just $8.99. Yes, buy the vet and save.
You're not taking the cops back to the apartments. Not when we're running this job out of there. Drop your tails, lose any pavement artists, then you can stash the file.
Right? Jump on it. Got a lot to for dinner. Are you putting jam? J-A-N, Jan as in January. Okay, beer, that's not the choice.
Your test is very interesting.
Changing the name of the show to the Comcast Closed captioning brought to you by TessoBook.com. If you were a loved one have visas being call now.
Tonight on 360, we're just learning that President Trump could be close to getting both the win and conceded demand the prosecution of former FBI director of Border Department. Taking controversy against ABC for so here, this is political message to public for defiance taking the president. And later, there's breaking news of the deadly sniper shooting at a night facility in Dallas that killed a radio and 2 others. The FBI director posts alleged evidence that the media would appear to be an anti-ICE incident involved on bullets that were found at the scene. Good evening, thanks for joining us. Whoever first said that the field of justice slowly might soon have to work. 4 days after the president demanded in a social media post, which was later deleted, that the Attorney General of the United States prosecute 3 people, political enemies, and 5 days after forcing out the U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert, who reportedly refused to carry out those orders due to lack of evidence in one of those cases, could now be on the fast track. Sources familiar with the investigation tell CNN that the Department of Justice is preparing to seek a criminal indictment against former FBI Director James Comey. Now, the probe is being run by the president in his replacement for Siebert as U.S. Attorney for Virginia District. Her name is Lindsay Halligan, and until now she's been serving as a White House Senior Associate Staff Secretary. Like Alina Habba, acting security, she has no experience as a prosecutor. Also, like Habba, she was part of the legal team in several different cases. People familiar with the investigation tell CNET it centers on whether Comey lied to the president during the September 2020 testimony on his handling of the Russia probe 4 years earlier. Here's some of what he said.
May 3rd, 2017. In this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation and the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
Your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
So that was from September 30th, 2020, and the date is important. The 5-year statute of limitations deadline for securing an indictment is Tuesday. But there's another reason for the urgency, and it is, as several of our legal analysts have said, almost completely without precedent in the entire history of the country. A president who wants his enemies prosecuted and does not mind saying so publicly and loudly and repeatedly. I mentioned some of that now deleted social media post by the president on Saturday. I want to read you some more of it, because if this was any other president, a post like this would have caused disbelief or outrage. On Saturday, the president posted, Pam, meaning Pam Bondi, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially, same old story as last time, all talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. His post ends with, we can't delay any longer, it's killing your reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now. So that was Saturday, the day after Eric Siebert was forced out, or as the president said, also online, I fired him. That same day, he named Lindsay Halligan Siebert's replacement, saying she'll be, quote, fair, smart, and will provide desperately needed justice for all. And just to underscore what the president thinks about the man he's demanding charges against, here's some of what he has said about James Comey, loud and clear on him.
Comey, all this, sleazebags, Comey lied to everybody.
Right.
We fired Comey, that fraud. That phony, crooked Comey. Comey should hang his head in disgrace. Comey is a dirty cop. Comey is a corrupt person. One of the best things is firing James Comey's out of it. He's a leaker. Comey, who's the worst. They lied to Congress many times. Comey and all those guys. Comey lies and leaks. He's a liar and he's a leaker. Is this guy being looked at? Well, we're going to straighten it out.
CNN Senior Justice Correspondent Evan Perez starts us off now from Washington. Says, what exactly are prosecutors weighing here, Evan?
Well, they're looking at possible perjury charges against the former FBI director. And from some of those clips that you just played, Anderson, you can see that this has been on the president's mind for some time. As a matter of fact, he pushed for this way back during the administration of Bill Barr, right? And he wanted the Justice Department to bring charges against James Comey. He believed that Comey had lied and that was essentially had set him up as part of the Trump-Russia investigation. And so that has been on his mind, and that remains on his mind at this hour. Now, for prosecutors, what they're looking at is whether they can sustain these charges. We know that there's a grand jury, of course, that meets in the courthouses of the Eastern District of Virginia. There's a courthouse in Alexandria and also in Richmond. So those are the ones that are possibilities for us to see some action. And as you pointed out, Anderson, all of this has to happen before the statute of limitations expires on Tuesday. Now, that we've seen brought in is a friend of Comey, somebody who worked served as his lawyer, Dan Richmond. He came and spoke to the FBI.
I'm always like, you didn't know I'm up here. Like, okay.
These memos that Comey had written which were leaked to the New York Times. And so we know that that is at least one of the things that prosecutors have been looking at. Now, we don't know, again, what specific testimony they're going to focus on.
Girl.
At this hour, we know is what they're doing. They're focusing on those statements from that.
You must not know about me.
All right, Evan, thanks very much. We're going to talk more about this when we bring CNN senior political and global affairs commentator Rahm Emanuel. He's also former Obama White House chief of staff, CNN senior legal analyst, former federal prosecutor Ali Honig, and Cardozo Law School professor.
International institutions, the writ of international law, which he said is failing. International institutions are not a sort of favorite of President Trump, if you will. We look at the way that he pulled apart various sort of elements and ideas at the UN yesterday as just one example of that. So what Zelensky is getting at here is to all those in the room, you have to be tougher. We as international countries have to reform the way that we enforce or are able to enforce international laws, and that's through those strong international institutions. But I do think it was a very clear message that even with strong friends, unless they let those weapons get to you, you cannot be effective. You don't have security.
All right, for more on this, I want to bring in Benjamin Radd, who's a political scientist and senior fellow at the UCLA Urkel Center for International Relations. Good to see you again. Thanks so much for being here with us. So I want to get to President Zelensky's address in a second, but first on President Trump's so-called shift on his position. I mean, how do you read what Trump said about Ukraine recapturing all its territory, and then administration officials like the Vice President, Secretary of State, basically walking it back?
I think it reflects a shift in tone for President Trump, but unless there's policy to follow it, it doesn't necessarily reflect a shift in U.S. position and how it's approaching the Ukraine-Russia war. We're not hearing anything about an increased or renewed commitment to arms, to intelligence cooperation, anything other than either President Trump is exasperated with one side, which was Ukraine earlier this year, or now he's frustrated with Vladimir Putin, the Russian side. He's vacillating between the two depending on whichever one seems to irk him in a given moment. But again, this is rhetoric, and I think all sides are seeing it that way. Though Zelensky certainly appreciates rhetoric that's in his favor rather than the more hostile tone that he got earlier this year.
Yeah, I imagine. Our reporting is that it's sort of a negotiating tactic by Trump. But if Putin responds to policy, not words, I mean, do you think he's seen or heard anything from Trump in the last day or so that might worry him a little?
I mean, if I were Vladimir Putin, there's really nothing yet to be concerned about. Even the threat of sanctions, which is something that President Trump floated several times now in recent weeks and months, has not come to fruition. Comes with conditions for NATO allies to impose sanctions. They also have to impose them on China, which is the one buying Russian oil, and for the Europeans to reduce their consumption of Russian oil. So none of that's taking place. And again, we're not seeing an increase in any U.S. supplies or any commitment to Ukraine's territorial integrity demonstrated by action beyond rhetoric. And that's what Putin responds to. It's not that he doesn't respond. He does when he sees a shift in policy, but none of that's evident yet.
Okay, so if it all basically comes down to action, as you say, I mean, our reporter there said that Zelensky's real message to Trump was, even with powerful friends, you need weapons to be effective. I mean, do you agree that's what Zelensky was really saying, that Trump's words aren't enough without actual hardware?
I don't think he's just saying that with respect to President Trump's words. I think Zelensky is telling the UN audience, it's very notable he made that statement there, that diplomacy and sanctions and working through the international legal process has brought the world no closer to peace and security and stability, and that the only thing that seems to matter with aggressors like Russia is the use of force and the willingness to stand up and resist their aggressive actions. And that's what he's looking for, and that's what he's telling the international community.
He gave a pretty harsh assessment of the UN, I thought, basically saying that international law has collapsed and institutions are weak. I mean, it seems like a pretty bold thing to say while you're up there standing at the UN podium.
Indeed, and it is notable that President Trump basically echoed the failures of the UN during his very long address the night before, and I think it demonstrates again that the efficacy of the UN as a institution is not so much in the action, but it's the fact that it can convene all the people together in one space and give them a forum to talk. But at the end of the day, these discussions, these deliberations, these acts of diplomacy do not deliver justice do not maintain peace. We've seen that now for decades. I mean, you have to go back to really the time of the Nuremberg trials to see a moment where that really was delivered. And in that instance, you had the Allied victors. Justice in a situation like that is see how this incarnation is sort of that same spirit. And I think Zelensky is just calling it as a case of really need hard, but use not words out that don't action.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds from what you're saying after this week so far, the UN were really close to ending this war. And doesn't diplomatic fear about it.
Oh, that's where I put. No, I forgot I put
And
these.
I think it's Vladimir Putin testing the international community, and specifically the resolve of the Europeans, given the incursions of Russian drones in their territory. What are the red lines here? And for the United States to really join in.
Keep it there. Thanks so much for being with us, Benjamin Rad. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Prosecutors are looking to indict former FBI Director James Comey on perjury charges. For people familiar with the Trump administration's investigation, prosecutors have until Tuesday to bring the charge.
Yeah, I guess so.
Speaking for the Justice Department here, there is an open investigation that could be put before a grand jury for a possible indictment of former FBI Director Jim Comey, someone who has been a political struggle for many, many years served in that position. What they're looking at is testimony that Jim Comey gave under oath to the Senate Judiciary Committee on September 30th of 2020. So that's next Tuesday, within 5 years of the day of that.
Got a clear view of the steps. Vanderloop and Sherman are on around the black benefactor shafter. Do not shoot until they are out of the car.
Could be flawed. So what the Justice Department is doing right now, what investigators are doing, is looking at whether they have
Here they come. Wait till they're out and take the shots at the exact same time. 2 shots, 2 kills. Well done. Now, go down and get their documents, and if the police corner you, make sure you're killed, not captured.
Oh, I can make popcorn, bitch. Mm. I don't know what y'all doing, but it needs to stop.
Particularly in Gaza, why is leadership failing to you? Allegations. This is chilling stomach churns. Yes, it is. What happens when you're arrested? It's president with Serbia to acknowledge what's most important. And it is clear as well that it's funeral period. This is what 18 months of war have done for the children. Richie White and the schools which was punished right at the genocide in Rwanda. Did you always know it? How does this story shape your future?
If you can keep your head when markets all around you are losing and you can't see a way through, if you can trust your instincts on when to buy, sell, and wait, you don't be tired by the waiting. If you can trade and not make money your master, meeting triumph and disaster in equal measure. If you can run with all
Spit out. Ooh.
The business world will be yours and all that is in it. And what is more, my friend, you will be profitable. For you are indeed watching Quest means business.
I'm Melissa Bell in Paris, and this is CNN.
Denmark says it can't point any fingers yet after mysterious drones forced its second airport closure this week. The drones appeared near the Aalborg airport on Wednesday, forcing a temporary halt to operations. Police are still investigating reports of drone sightings near at least 3 other airfields on Wednesday and Thursday. It's all happening after similar sightings closed airports in Oslo and Copenhagen earlier this week. The Danish Prime Minister said the incidents fit the pattern of recent suspected Russian drone incursions and airspace violations in Europe. Moscow denies any involvement. President Trump is blaming a deadly shooting in Texas on rhetoric from the radical left. At least one detainee at an immigration facility in Dallas was killed, and 2 more are in critical condition. While the president is quick to point fingers, some Texas lawmakers are calling for an end to divisive rhetoric. CNN's Ed Lavandera reports.
Federal law enforcement officials described the gunman as a sniper who shot 3 immigrant detainees in ICE custody. The attack happened just before 7 a.m. at an ICE field office in Dallas. Denise's Robledo was outside in a van waiting for her mother. She says her mother, an immigrant from Nicaragua, was checking in for an early immigration appointment. She showed us a video, and we could hear slow, methodical gunfire. As many as 7 shots. Robledo said she could hear screams coming from the facility. Dallas police were called to the scene around 6:40 a.m. local time.
There's going to be a sniper on top of the roof.
DPD was able to locate the shooter, who was deceased.
Law enforcement officials say the gunman died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The FBI says they are investigating the attack as an act of targeted violence.
Early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature.
FBI Director Kash Patel posted a photo of an anti-ICE message written on one of 5 unused bullets at the scene. Even though officials say this was an anti-immigration officer attack, no ICE officials or members of law enforcement were hurt.
But DHS officials say one immigrant detainee was killed and 2 other detainees were wounded. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security says the shooter fired, quote, indiscriminately at the ICE building and at a van. Investigators say the shots came from a higher position at an adjacent building. Investigators searched a car outside that building. The vehicle had a sign posted on the rear panel showing a United States map that read, radioactive fallout from nuclear detonations have passed over these areas more than 2 times since 1951. There's no confirmation yet if this is the suspect's car. The gunman's elevated location is similar to the shooting of Charlie Kirk just 2 weeks ago, and the political nature of the engravings also draw comparisons to similar evidence found at the Kirk shooting scene. This shooting took place at an immigration facility where detainees are processed before they are transferred to a detention center.
This is the second time I've had to stand in front of you and talk about a shooter at one of my facilities, and I think that the takeaway from all of this is that the rhetoric has to stop.
Law enforcement and Republican officials blame the shootings on increasingly volatile political speech they say is coming from the far left. In a statement, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said, this shooting must serve as a wake-up call to the far left that their rhetoric about ICE has consequences, comparing ICE day in and day out to the Nazi Gestapo, the secret police, and slave patrols has consequences.
Look, in America, we disagree. That's fine. That's the democratic process. But your political opponents are not Nazis.
An immigration attorney tells CNN that the immigrant detainees that were already at this facility in Dallas have been moved to another detention facility, and that other immigrants who have appointments here Thursday through Sunday can come in on Monday, while investigators continue to work the crime scene here. Ed Lavandera, CNN, Dallas.
A French court is expected to announce the verdict in the coming hours in the trial of former President Nicolas Sarkozy. He's accused of receiving millions of dollars in illegal campaign financing in 2007 from the late Libyan strongman Muammar Gaddafi. Sarkozy's attorney calls the charges of fabrication. If the former president is convicted, he could face up to 10 years in prison. Jimmy Kimmel pulled in record viewership in his first show back after being suspended by ABC. I'll tell you just how many people watched his return despite some stations refusing to air the show. Please stay with us.
6 trucks full of soldiers accompanying our every move.
Where are your homes? Have your homes been destroyed?
This is where those militants first came. We could hear jets in the skies, non-stop, profound pounding.
So let me understand this. You are now basically the only hospital around.
Has the situation become worse in the last year? They're starving to death. They are starving to death.
Do you think it's Jewish land, Gaza? When will the Taliban allow teenage girls to go back to school?
I think we can all see that's not a cycling accident. There's the photographs of you with Prigozhin together.
Does Emily understand what happened on October 7th?
It must weigh on your heart to have to bury these little children. These are all people who are desperately trying to escape.
We will tell the world your story.
Did the re-election of Donald Trump play any role in your decision to resign? Why do you need to study it? It sounds like the facts are on your fingertips.
There really is much more that unites us than that which divides us.
Watch The Leap weekdays on CNN. The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, Emmy winner for Outstanding Reported News Program 2 years in a row. CNN's best journalists share deeply reported stories. This week, Omar Jimenez goes inside the Trump administration's fight with Harvard and meets the students and faculty who are paying the price.
Do you lay any blame at Harvard's leadership for the moment we're in right now?
What the universities did does not justify what the Trump administration is doing.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper on CNN.
CNN journalists spanning 5 from Abu Dhabi to the world. We're empowering the next generation of global journalists. Welcome to CNN Academy for Jeff Oliver, 20 students around the world. We've delivered more than 1,000 hours of immersive learning and hands-on training.
It's been an incredible week.
Partnering with leading media organizations and universities from across the world. We bring the newsroom to the classroom. Find out more at academy.cnn.com. CNN World Sports, non-stop action year-round. Our velocity series to football. All the major events. I love where the game is going right now. What does it take for me to be even better? Experience. The motion sometimes science wasn't a good world. The latest highlights in sports moment. And exclusive interviews with your favorite coaches and players who will keep this thing rolling for you guys. Don't miss CNN World Sport, only on CNN. In a divided America, where do I fit? You tell me. Ask your heart. Abby Phillip brings all sides to the table. Can you name the one thing you use? The hypocrisy is so rampant. All the classes in session to talk about the issue. Congresswoman, it is false. The answer is zero. The policies. What is the Democratic Party about? Can you answer that question? And the biggest debates to wrap up your day. I know what you're saying Trump believes in, but do you think it's a good idea? Newsnight with Abby Phillip. Nights on CNN. I'm Abby Gottman in Havana. This is CNN. You fall in love, ding boom, sky up above, ding boom, it's caving in. Man, never been so nuts about a guy. You wanna laugh, you wanna cry, you cross your heart and hope to die. When you're
You got the bus? All right. Take it to bowling mode and avoid attention.
This is CNN.
Coming up on Bolingbroke. Get it together and we'll let you in. You've got clearance.
Welcome back. I'm Kim Brunhoover. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Regional Arab leaders endorsed parts of a 21-point U.S. peace plan to end the war in Gaza. The Trump administration says it's hopeful for a breakthrough in the coming days. The U.S. peace plan calls for a ceasefire, the release of hostages, IDF withdrawal, and offers a framework for Gaza's governance without Hamas. Federal prosecutors have until Tuesday to indict former FBI Director James Comey. According to sources familiar with the investigation, prosecutors are preparing to charge Comey with perjury in connection with his testimony about Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election. The U.S. National Park Service has removed the statue of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein from the National Mall. And placed the statue there on Tuesday, calling attention to the bond between the president and the sex trafficker. Interior Department officials said the statue didn't comply with the permit issue. Jimmy Kimmel's return to late-night television has set a new record for the show. ABC says about 6.3 million people turned in to watch his first show back after the network pulled him off the air last week. That's more than 3 times Kimmel's typical viewership, and that's just on traditional television. Across social media and streaming sites, the episode continues to rack up impressive numbers. His opening monologue, calling attention to government threats to free speech, has been viewed more than 50 million times on YouTube. Their most viewed monologue at all times on the platform. Donald Trump wasted no time issuing Kimmel returned to air. The president suggested his administration might investigate what he called legal campaign contributions to the Democratic Party by allowing Kimmel on air. CNN's Alex Michelson sat down with former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair to talk about the growing political division in the U.S.
We have the situation with Jimmy Kimmel, this sort of lack of trust, this fighting back and forth between both sides. We saw President Trump say that he hates his enemies, which is the total opposite of everything that you've always been about. How do you process this moment and this concept of hating one candidate?
I think the way I do, and I find it very, very comforting. that I'm a human being and created this way by the influence that other people had on me to be very inclusive. And when I see someone that disagrees with me, not to go and look at them suspiciously or look at them like the enemy. I try to figure out and learn something from the person. Why did they feel that way? I think that we are not enough listening to one another. We're just shouting at one another. God gave us 2 ears and only 1 mouth. So we should listen twice as much when we talk. That's the bottom line. We are wasting our time if we talk about and analyze Donald Trump.
Picking up the pieces after a deadly storm. Recovery efforts are underway in Taiwan. The most powerful storm on the planet this year swept through the island. We'll show you by Steve Vidya. Coming up next, please stay.
Headed to Hangzhou, a journey of fascination. This is the best place to get these pieces to run. One of the last places to really get off the grid. I come here to bring my soul and get back to why we leave home in the first place. Here, I love climate and I love beautiful scenery. It's incredible. But I'm ready for new challenges. I find this very beautiful, but also slightly terrifying. Yeah, don't worry. First time for everything. I'll be doing my best to keep up with the next week trip, beautiful. From the coast of Africa to its untamed wilderness, rich follows to nature as it is. Real, real, there's a such incredible hope. Journey alongside a world-renowned photographer for an experience beyond the lens. Look at that, just endless habitat and artwork with an inspiring mission. Incredible beauty and still great work. And we plan to save them all to Earth this weekend on CNN.
Why in Gaza? Why is leadership failed here?
Selfish, short-term thinking.
In allegations, it's a spilling stomach churning stuff. Yes, it is. What happened during the trial? What happened if you're arrested? They were taking my data time. What would it take, Mr. President, for Serbia to acknowledge Kosovo's independence? And it is clear on these grounds, St. Peter's Square, that the funeral will be held. This is what 18 months of war has done to the children of Gaza. Where do you find empathy with some of these autocrats? Have you used ChatGPT to write your song? Look here, the genocide in Rwanda made you almost tip photography. Tell us about that moment. How does this story shape all of you who are the future?
Get in the back, dumbass.
Its future to be watched. It's on display here on Expo 2025. Use the sensors to read your heart signals and track your pulse. It's now also being used for elderly people.
little friend Vidya visit Japan. I've always wanted to walk the red carpet. There is a red carpet with the walk, but there's a long line of people who also want to walk it. So when in Cannes, it's long been a playground for the famous and the rich. The glamour. Oh, I've been moving caramel furniture. I'll settle for an ice cream. Keep the change, thank you.
Rafael Global in Atlanta. This is CNN.
Taiwan is cleaning up after a huge storm killed at least 14. Cars were tossed aside as Typhoon Ragasa sent floodwaters dripping through this town on Tuesday.
I should say I'm impressed by your professionalism. I'm not going to go into it. Rajkovsky's part of something bigger. Way bigger. Many of the few more inquiries will be ready to go on a job that requires your particular skill set. Don't retire on me just yet.
Southern China on Wednesday. Now downgraded to a tropical storm. Ragasa will top the trees and smash and shock windows in China's tech hub of Shenzhen. The area is among the most densely populated coastlines in the world. Hong Kong hurricane force winds ripped through the city on Wednesday, injuring at least 90 people. Moved up waves that inundated waterfront areas.
All right, we did it. We did it.
Powered by Artists say their technology is providing a safer online experience for kids on social media.
An AI-powered app aimed at parents to protect their kids online called Swaley. The app is designed to alert both kids and their parents when harmful content appears on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and
Swaley is, I like to say, is very different. It's AI powered, and what it does is it helps families take control of social media and make it healthier and safer for them. So it helps both the parent and the child and any out there.
instead of banning or restricting access to social platforms, the app retrains content algorithms and gives parents insight into their child's online activity.
We have 36 different filters that we identify, and then we alert and we do tips and tricks in terms of how to deal with this type of content and how to try and remove it from your own feeds. So you can start to choose what is it that you're being exposed to, what is the quality of
information that you're receiving. A recent survey commissioned by Swaley questioned more than 2,000 US and UK families. 77% of kids surveyed said social media harms their health, but it found most feel powerless to stop it. While parents worry about explicit content, kids say it's the constant stream of toxic narratives that does the real damage.
I think the benefit of Swaley is that it makes it very clear for the parents what's going on online, and it has the capability through its AI to understand the latest trends in a way that, frankly, even I as an educator who works children every day, we can't stay on top of it, and that's where Swaley comes in a really helpful way.
Swaley is currently available to download. On Apple and Android devices. Christina McFarlane, CNN, London.
Italy is celebrating the late Giorgio Armani during Milan Fashion Week. The 91-year-old fashion legend died earlier this month in Milan. The Brera Art Museum is displaying a retrospective of the Italian designer's fashions, coincides with his label's 50th anniversary, and features striking red and silver garments set among masterpieces of Italian art from the Middle Ages and the 19th century. The tribute runs through January. All right, thanks so much for watching CNN Newsroom. I'll be back with more news at the top of the hour. World Sport.
Join me, Larry McDowell, as I introduce you to Africa's trendsetters. See how they use their talent, resources, and passions to make a difference on the continent. This is African Voices Change Makers. And Frank shares how she's eager to find African storytelling on the global stage.
Do not think that somehow your story is not universal.
African Voices Changemakers on CNN.
So you think you guys will be able to snorkel and dive in these reefs when you're adults?
That's right. Yeah. That's right, unless we change.
Any of these explosions, any of these munitions come close to this position?
Yes, we've had some land 200 meters away.
There is a large Chinese Coast Guard ship directly in front of this Philippines Coast Guard vessel. This animal is a symbol of this country.
It's an iconic species.
Is it in trouble?
It's very much in trouble.
More young men from his small farming village flee to the U.S. every week. This is a maximum secured wing in the Changi prison complex in Singapore. This is how Ukraine is honoring one of its fallen warriors. He is truly regarded as a hero by many, many Ukrainians.
Today, we live in an unpredictable environment and news races around the world at breakneck speed. Demi Moore, Kate Winslet, Jocelyn Murphy, welcome to the program.
I think that societies that suppress their women are the least successful economically.
My show brings you the latest news and top news makers. Do you feel the Trump administration understands what's at stake? Mortality. And we also dive below the headlines.
These scenes have been the most emotional scenes of the series.
What do you want the impact of this particular film to be?
It's corny to say, but it's about love. Is anything worth dying for other than worth living for?
It's crucial we make sense of what's happening and fully understand what's at stake. Does Europe have enough forces to control?
Got pretty much everything in here.
Is a man who is living in Korea who one day decides to upend his life because he has heard that he is being chased by an organization. One of the people who is assigned to go after him turns out to be his daughter.
Dad?
It's a story of how that thread unspools and the ramifications of past decisions he's made.
Okay, so we'll just live happily ever after.
I used to love those.
Just pay for those.
I wanted to kind of showcase South Korea as a character in our show. We shot in over 20 cities here, and we were trying to be as respectful as we could of the location and the way we shoot and portray Korea because it's a place that I love.
Why?
Because Caddis has something of mine I want back. I was born in South Korea, and I still have a lot of relatives here. And a lot of my previous work, I haven't been able to showcase the sides of me that this show allows me to do. I love being American, I love being Korean, and this is a love letter to both cultures.
Having all this success, otherwise maybe it wouldn't be in the mortgage industry because the rates are so high, but I'd be doing something out there in the world, and very, very blessed to be playing golf now, and very grateful, and I'm just trying to take advantage of my opportunities and try my best out here.
As I understand it, there were a couple of things that might be interpreted as the universe trying to get you back into golf.
Mm-hmm.
You drove accidentally to a golf course, is that true?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Yeah, early morning, trying to go to work, and my body's used to going to a golf course, I guess. My grandpa passed away in July 2021. He was a big golfer. His quote was, "Hit it long and straight." That hit me hard at the right time. Really, I was working, and I was like, man, I'm 25. Like, I'm at probably, would be the peak of my career if I were to go play golf. Like, if I'm going to go do this, I need to do it now. Because if I wait another few years, I'm going to be working the rest of my life, working in, a desk job or something in the world. I felt like I went back into golf with a ton of motivation, and a ton of confidence, and just trying to maximize my opportunity.
Now Griffin is embracing a new challenge. He's one of 4 rookies on the US trying to win back the trophy from the Europeans. Whilst lacking in experience, he's more than compensating with his confidence, both walking the walk and talking the talk.
We were talking about the best 12 golfers from both the US side and the European side. For me personally,
Man said, damn, nice cities.
I would say 3 or 4 golfers on the American side. I believe I can be number 2 very easily.
Given everything you've achieved this year, what do you think it would mean to represent your country in a winning Ryder Cup team?
Yeah, that's why we want to be on that team. We not only want to represent the United States, but we want to win. We're all trying to work hard and kick each other's butt and try to
create a little bit of a culture. And yeah, I'm just really excited to kind of go to battle with the
Yeah,
Americans.
it's a nice city.
Really
I'm like,
try to get that Ryder Cup back.
All right, well, there is always so much to say about the Ryder Cup, and I'm really excited to say that we're joined by the renowned golf broadcaster, Hallie Ledbetter. I love the Ryder Cup. In fact, I've gone on record as saying it's the best sports event, period. What do you think? What do you love about it?
I agree with you. I don't think we are alone in that sentiment. It really is so incredible. It transcends golf. It's up there with the Super Bowl, the World Cup. People that don't even play golf love the Ryder Cup because it's every 2 years. You've got it in Europe, you've got it in the U.S. These players are playing for, in the U.S. case, there is a bit of money, but generally it's for that, their team. It's for history. It's for each other, and that's just not something that you get a lot in golf. Maybe in the Europeans' case, they played some team golf growing up, but the Americans, they don't really get that opportunity. So it's just something that is so unique in our game, but it transcends golf.
Well, you're kind of American and British.
Yes.
I know who I'm cheering for. Do you know who you're cheering for?
You're right. So I do have dual citizenship.
If you saw where we were from, you know how far Franklin made it. Me too. Shit. Just a different route.
I have to say I'm going for the Americans because when I see how much Keegan Bradley wants this and that really difficult decision that he had to decide whether he was going to pick himself or if he was going to be a captain, which I think he made the right decision. However, you heard him say in his press conference a couple days ago that he still is now thinking back to the pension.
This is CNN Newsroom. Special envoy predicts some sort of breakthrough soon after laying the administration's peace plan for Gaza. Syria's president becomes the country's first leader to address the UN General Assembly in nearly 6 decades. And new AI-powered app giving parents a way to protect their children from harmful social media content.
This is CNN Newsroom with Ken Rosenberg.
In the coming hours, the president is expected to deliver a pre-recorded speech to world leaders at the UN General Assembly. His remarks will come just days after a number of Western countries formally declared their recognition of the Palestinian state as part of the effort to revive a two-state solution and provide a pathway to peace. The King of Spain will open Wednesday's UN session with this message.
Let's be clear. We strongly condemn the heinous terrorism of Hamas, and especially the massive October 7, 2023 against the Israeli occupation. We recognize Israel's right to defend itself, but under the same purpose, we demand that the Israeli government fully apply international humanitarian law throughout Gaza and the West Bank. We demand that humanitarian aid reach its destination without delay, a ceasefire with guarantees, and the immediate release of all hostages still supposedly held by Hamas.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will address the UN General Assembly on Friday and then head to the White House to meet Donald Trump on Monday. The Trump administration is hopeful for a breakthrough, proposing a 21-point peace plan to Arab leaders. The U.S. plan calls for a permanent ceasefire and release of all hostages and offers a framework for how Gaza can be governed from the benefit of Hamas. Includes a proposal for Israel to practically withdraw from the regional leaders endorsed large parts of the plan for making suggestions on provisions they want added to it. Meanwhile, Israel's ground defense is pushing deeper into Gaza City. Hospitals report 92 people were killed throughout Gaza, including 55 people in Gaza City alone. This has started the labor movements.
Even as a number of world leaders at the UN General Assembly talk about the importance of bringing a ceasefire to Gaza that would end the war after nearly 2 years, Israel is continuing to press its assault on Gaza City. The Israeli military chief saying forces will push deeper into the city itself and carry out larger strikes targeting what it sees as one of Hamas's last remaining strongholds. But we see what's unfolding as a result of these strikes. Gaza hospitals say nearly 100 have been killed on Wednesday. Most of those were over Gaza. Shortly after 1 o'clock, Gaza civil defense says that Israelis shot and killed 22 people, including 9 children, in the U.S. market in both cities of Gaza City, and they have seen the results of that strike. Israel military says they were targeting 2 Hamas terrorists in that strike. They did not name who they were targeting or specify the 2 people that they were targeting in that strike. They also say that they're aware of reports regarding casualties, but their numbers don't align with what we're seeing reported from Gaza's civil defense. Meanwhile, a drone launch yesterday struck the Israeli city of Eilat in southern Israel on Wednesday, resulting in at least 20 collisions from Israel with its responders, including 2 seriously injured as a result of shrapnel thrown at it. Israel has intercepted most of the drone with missiles launched from the Iran backed Houthis. We have seen several in recent weeks pierce Israel's aerial defense and carry out strikes in Israel. So that continues to escalate between Israel and its defense. CNN Jerusalem.
Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara spoke at the UN General Assembly on Wednesday and called for the remaining international sanctions on his country to be lifted.
We restructured the civil and military institutions, dissolving all previous formations. Civil and diplomatic activity in Syria explored its international relations, forged regional and global partnerships, and achieved the gradual lifting of those sanctions. We call now for the complete lifting of sanctions so we can be no longer the shadow of the Syrian people.
A Syrian leader, a former jihadist, who once had a $10 million bounty on his head, also met President Donald Trump during a reception hosted by the U.S. President sidelines of the event. Israel announced for the first time on Wednesday that it's in talks with Syria to have repeated Israeli cross-border strikes. this as the first step towards peace. On this, again, your mind about the Syria research program at the London School of Economics, which is also an assistant professor. Thank you so much for being here with us. I really appreciate it. So, al-Shara just gave Syria's first presidential address to the UN in almost 60 years. Before we get to what he said, does it represent any hope for Syrians who've been watching this, who've been through decades of dictatorship and civil war, and they're hoping for a fresh start? So you think he struck maybe the wrong tone there? I mean, he's promising a new Syria, but we're still seeing violence in places like Sueda and along the coast. I mean, what is the reality on the ground, especially for Syria's minorities?
As a first step to put together. And that was very much the essence and the spirit of the UN resolution that was drafted and enacted about 10 years ago to put solution for the country. It talked about transitional governing body that has everyone in it rather than just one person leading everything. But reality remains right now a very divided country, many, especially from minority backgrounds, unable to see themselves in this new leadership. They're getting more and more excluded out of this new project. Many of them are armed. And we already had a series of massacres going on, very, very sad. I mean, thousands of people at every time, were killed. So the question is, how about the other areas? What's going to happen, for example, with the northeast of Syria? Is there going to be politics? Is he going to be able to make the right concessions needed to bring everyone on board? Or is there going to be violence? Or is it going to be yet again like what happened in Sueda, international mediation, like the American mediation of Sueda, where it's going to almost force him to make a painful concessions?
Yeah, many questions still to be answered there. Al-Shara is calling for sanctions to be lifted. I mean, given everything what you said there, how cautious should the West be about how quickly they welcome Syria into the international fold?
Well, in regard to the sanctions, I think the sanctions should be lifted. To be honest, they should have been lifted even before the fall of the regime. The most of the sanctions, not the targeted one, most of the sanctions really harmed the Syrian people, really contributed to the economic collapse in the country. I think the international community need to remain focused on the Syrian people, not on the Syrian president. Too often foreign visitors only see Damascus, which can only really it does deceive people. It gives the illusion that everything is stable and everything is normal. But outside the capital, there's really very different reality. There's also security, and so the international community need to see this reality, need to keep focused on the people, and any step they take towards Sharia, towards the sanction, anything, should translate to improvement to the life of the ordinary Syrian people. If not, then it is a step in the wrong direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are questions about internal security, then there's external security. I mentioned before the U.S. Special Envoy announced that Syria and Israel are pursuing a de-escalation agreement with American backing, which would presumably be the first step towards a broader security deal. So given the tensions we've seen, I mean, how significant would this be for regional stability and for al-Shara himself?
It is very significant. It wouldn't have happened under Assad, indeed. The question whether he will be able to deliver on these promises. I don't think President al-Shara wants any hostility with any neighboring country. I think he's very honest when he says Syria, wants peace with everyone. It's not on his list right now to go and fight any other country. But to sign a security deal with a new state that is still not controlling over all its territory, over all the factions, we have to remain to wait to see it.
Wait and see. All right. So I really appreciate your perspective on this, Turkmani. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Iran's president also took the podium at the General Assembly on Wednesday and denied his country is seeking nuclear weapons. President Masoud Pezeshkian slammed European nations that are trying to reimpose sanctions on Tehran over nuclear issues. He added that accusations against Iran are often made by those who already have nuclear arsenals. Here he is.
A future not in pursuit of peace imposed by force, but founded upon strength derived through peace. In such a strong region, slaughter and bloodshed shall find no place. It is for this very reason that my country has, for many years, been among the staunchest advocates of establishing a region free of weapons of mass destruction. Yet those who themselves possess the largest nuclear arsenals and who, in flagrant breach of the NPT, make their weapons even deadlier and more destructive, have for years subjected our people to pressures on the basis of spurious allegations.
Picking up the pieces after a deadly storm, recovery efforts are underway in Taiwan after the most powerful storm on the planet this year swept through the island. We'll show you the impact of Typhoon Ragasa next. Plus, Republican officials blame the far left for a deadly shooting at an ice facility in Texas. Bring you the latest on the investigation coming up. Please stay with us.
In a divided America, where do I fit? You tell me, ask your partner. Abby Phillip brings all sides to the table. Can you name one thing you do this for? The hypocrisy is so racial. So all classes in session talk about the issue. Congresswoman, it is false. The answer is zero. The policy. What is the Democratic Party about? Can you answer that question? And the biggest debate to wrap up your day. I hear what you're saying, Trump believes it, but do you think it's good idea? You need tonight with Abby Phillip, Tuesday through Saturday on CNN.
Whoever controls Snake Island controls the Black Sea. This whole island is littered with landmines. A year ago when we were here in Pyongyang, you couldn't turn a corner without seeing anti-American propaganda. You're seeing much more of this. This is about building a socialist economy. Do you worry that this could be the place where there could be the beginning of a bigger conflict between Taiwan and mainland China? Do you have faith that the United States will defend Taiwan? I do have faith. Is there justice for Muslims like you today? No.
We are underneath a giant tent with thousands of people outside Delhi.
I've never been anywhere like this before.
The Israeli father of four left home and drove directly into danger.
Why, particularly in Gaza, why is leadership failed here?
Selfish, short-term interest.
The allegations, I mean, this is chilling, stomach-churning stuff.
Yes, it is.
What happens, Maria Machado, what happens if you're arrested?
We're taking one day at a time.
What would it take, Mr. President, for Serbia to acknowledge Kosovo's independence? And it is here, on these grounds, St. Peter's Square, that his funeral will be held. This is what 18 months of war has done to the children of Gaza. Where do you find empathy with some of these autocrats? Have you used ChatGPT to write any songs?
Not yet.
The genocide in Rwanda made you almost quit photography. Tell us about that moment. How does this story shape all of you who are the future?
If you can keep your head when markets all around you are losing and you can't see a way through, if you can trust your instincts on when to buy, sell, or wait, and don't be tired by the waiting, if you can trade and not make money your master, meeting triumph and disaster in equal measure, if you can run with the bulls and not be afraid of the bears, treating both impostors the same, for when we come together, we will make sense of it all. And then the business world will be yours and all that is in it. And what is more, my friend, you will be profitable. For you are indeed watching Wrestling's business.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, Emmy winner for Outstanding Reported News Program 2 years in a row. CNN's best journalists share deeply reported stories. This week, Omar Jimenez goes inside the Trump administration's fight with Harvard and meets the students and faculty who are paying the price.
Do you lay any blame at Harvard's leadership for the moment you're in right now? What the university's did does not justify what the Trump administration is doing.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper on CNN.
It is a time that America very often is clean. Your happy filter brings all sides to the table. And there's one thing you can do. Stadium.
Alright, let's get the EMP and the LAPV to HLAR. The LAPV is still at the safe house on North Calafia. Obviously, this is a malware style
Killed at least 14 people.
Trojan
Inside, production of floodwater dripping through this town from 2 million people their homes. Southern Pine on Wednesday is now evaporated with tropical storm. Leaves and smashed shop windows and a penthouse of hurricane force winds drifted to Hong Kong on Wednesday, bringing at least 90 people. Montgomery ventured out to storm visit hardest hit areas.
We're in one of the worst hit areas in Hong Kong called Chung Kwan O, and as you can tell, just over there, the sea, is very, very close to this waterfront. And there's a concrete sea wall, but it didn't really do much to protect these restaurants from these massive sea swells and storm surges. We've seen photos and videos emerge from the typhoon showing massive waves inundating these restaurants and causing very extensive damage. In fact, I'm going to show you this over here. You can see these restaurants come off their hinges. Glass is just shattered everywhere. There's a massive amount of debris. There's furniture strewn about everywhere. In fact, over in the distance, you can kind of see these metal barriers that were actually installed to prevent flooding. But clearly, it didn't really do much to prevent any of this damage from affecting these restaurants. Now, we did speak to the owner of this specific restaurant a little while earlier, and he told us that when he saw those images of his restaurant just getting hit with massive amounts of water, it looked almost like a tsunami, and he said that it could take several weeks for his restaurant to get back and running again.
Across the group, we're pretty upset. The group is we've had that before in other venues, and we've gotten together and make sure that we get up and running as fast as possible. But, everyone's devastated. It's hard to come with when you see something you built getting destroyed overnight pretty quickly.
And at this neighboring establishment, you're also seeing some flooding here. And again, furniture just completely strewn about, destroyed, and the doors as well, completely gone from this storm.
Now, scientists warn that climate change is making storms like Regassa more and more dangerous. Donald Trump disagrees. Speaking at the UN this week, U.S. President called global warming hoax. Alex Michelson sat down with former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and former British Prime Minister Blair for hosting a climate event in New York this week. They talked about it.
The bottom line is that he just never believed it.
And to me, I said, okay, then I cannot really go and be on this team because I'm a big believer that we have to do something about reducing pollution, and we have to do something about having people die suddenly that they die. And so I felt very strongly about the way I was thinking, and I totally understand that everyone has to think like me. So, but what is important is that people know, okay, so that's how our president feels. We should stop everything. Because so many people say, oh my God, if America doesn't move forward, then does it make any sense to move forward at all? It's nonsense, because the fact of the matter is that every state in the United States has its own laws.
We're going to focus on what we can actually do. And if you see where I think we've been at risk in the climate argument, it's not in persuading people that there's a real problem. Because I think most people accept it. They can see that President Trump does it. Well, people are going to take different views of it. But one thing I think that's really important is to accept that a lot of the time we've been making this argument on climate, we've not been making it in a way that's likely to persuade people.
U.S. federal prosecutors are looking to indict former FBI Director James Comey on perjury charges. That's according to people familiar with the Trump administration's investigation. Prosecutors have until Tuesday to bring a charge. Vidya Morning continues. Case in Florence.
The clock is ticking for the Justice Department here, and there is an open investigation that could be put before a grand jury for a possible indictment of the former FBI Director Jim Comey, someone who has been a political foe of Donald Trump, the president, for many, many years since he served in that position. What they are looking at is testimony that Jim Comey gave under oath to the Senate Judiciary Committee on September 30th of 2020. So that's next Tuesday will be 5 years to the day of that. That means that's essentially the last date that we understand through our sources that an indictment against Comey related to that congressional testimony could be brought. And so what the Justice Department is doing right now, what federal investigators are doing, is looking at whether they have the case and potentially taking it before a grand jury. Our understanding is this would be in the Eastern District of Virginia, so that is Northern Virginia, Richmond, the Tidewater area of Virginia, in a federal court potentially. Comey has not been charged yet, however, and what we do understand too is that he stands by his testimony, both from 2017 after he was fired by Donald Trump as president, and also in 2020 when he told the Senate Judiciary Committee that he was standing by his earlier testimony and that he wasn't leaking to the media. We do think that there's a possibility this could relate to a leak investigation, but at the end of the day, what our understanding is right now is that Jim Comey is potentially facing an indictment or a possible coming indictment related to perjury or making false statements to Congress in 2020.
President Trump is blaming a deadly shooting in Texas on rhetoric from the radical left. At least one detainee in immigration facility in Dallas was killed. 2 more are in critical condition. But while the president was quick to point fingers, some Texas lawmakers are calling for an end to divisive rhetoric.
We're learning more information about the moments that led up to the deadly shooting. The Department of Homeland Security says that a sniper began firing from a nearby rooftop indiscriminately at the ICE building, as well as a van that was in the Sally Port where victims were shot.
There were shots fired at our Dallas field office. Right now, our information is a possible sniper.
Several agencies are investigating a deadly shooting at an immigration and customs enforcement facility in Dallas. Officials say at least 2 of the victims are detainees and no law enforcement officers were injured.
I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence.
This is at least the 3rd shooting to target a Texas ICE facility this year. The field office in Dallas has held more than 8,000 temporarily detained persons over the first 6 months of President Donald Trump's administration, according to data obtained by the Deportation Data Project. FBI Director Kash Patel shared an image on social media of what authorities say are the bullets connected to the shooting.
Early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature.
FBI legal director for ICE Dallas called for an end to extreme political rhetoric.
This has got to stop. It's dangerous. People are losing their lives.
While Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson asked for calm and patience as the investigation continues.
There's still a lot of unanswered questions, and I want to encourage all of you to exercise a little bit of restraint and allow them to do their job.
The shooter has been identified as a 29-year-old man and Dallas resident, and two detainees remain in serious condition. One of them is a Mexican national, according to Mexico's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In Dallas, I'm Michael Rodriguez.
Coming up here on CNN Newsroom, a warning to the UN. Why Ukraine's president predicts Russia will expand the war further unless it's stopped.
I'm headed to Angola and joining a fascinating. This is the best place to get your peace in life. One of the last places to really get off the grid. I come here to clean my soul and get back to why we leave home in the first place. Here, I love climbing in Angola. Beautiful scenery, it's incredible. I'm ready for new challenges this trip. I find it very beautiful, but also slightly terrifying. Yeah, don't worry. First time for everything. I'll be doing my best. Join us. Next big trip, Angola. From the coasts of Africa to its untamed wilderness, Chris Fallows captures nature as it is. Raw, real, and worth saving. To see this gives you such incredible hope. Journey alongside a world-renowned photographer for an experience beyond the lens. Look at that, just endless habitat. And artwork with an inspiring message. And such incredible Edens still do exist, and we can still save them. Call to earth. This weekend on CNN.
Did the re-election of Donald Trump play any role in your decision to resign? Why do you need to study it?
Only the guys between the gate and the garage are mission critical, but I like your thinking. Concentration is key, people. Take an amphetamine if you have one. Visualize your goal. Let's do this. Get familiar with your surroundings. You'll be back here soon.
Let's do it. Just traditional art from this center. In 2024, this is meticulously recreated collection of various policies by the nonprofit Foundation.
We felt it was essential to recreate the fellowship to truly experience the lifetime history of policy. We invited the artisans to participate to see and touch the original pieces.
Culture choosing is a type of red lantern that symbolizes the royal family's influence and this box and this box is meant to carry the royal seal of the king. 5 artisans work together to recreate this oval chair for the king, and everything in the hall features royal symbols that represent longevity.
Palaces weren't just ordinary buildings, they reflected shared values upheld by everyone, including the king. The palace blended these values with the most advanced science and technology and aesthetics of the era to function.
Stay quiet. Keep moving.
The new Popeyes Hot Ones menu has something for the spice carrots.
spice lovers and the full-fledged certified spice lovers. That flavor's phenomenal. But tell me how about some What's ready? Love that chicken with butter. What's up, man? It's time for my friends to meet an adult.
Need to hack the security panel to get the insurgent into the bay. Go to work on it.
Clean Max first. Spray now. Wash for 7 days. It's not clean unless it's oxy. This is a nightcap. And this is a day cap. Nightcap? Day cap. Cap off the day, kick off the night with an Angel's Envy Peach Smash.
Influences trend new. In 1991, Chief wrote the book. Years later, the Chief brand is still influenced. Some create trends, we create our own trend. Some service we swing the ribs. Chief. This is CNN.
Today, after the U.S. president said he thinks Ukraine can win back all of its territory from Russia, the Kremlin is calling that claim deeply mistaken. The State Department says Marco Rubio called on Moscow to take meaningful steps to end war in response to the Russian counterpart on the sideline. The General Assembly, Russia's foreign minister says Sergei Lavrov told the U.S. Secretary of State Ukraine and European allies determined to long fighting. Meeting Russian replied with a thumbs up.
There's a Merryweather team inbound. They have no reason to suspect you do not engage. Okay, hurry it up. We just lost connection. They're seeing live images on the security feed.
Something the world must stop Russian occupation now rather than risk escalation.
Whether you have peace or continue trading with Russia and help Russia to halt its war, it depends on you. Whether prisoners of war will be taken, whether abducted children will come home, whether hostages will be free, it depends on you.
Zelensky also told the UN that we're in the midst of the most destructive arms race in human history. CNN's Nick Robertson has more on his message.
You know, I think that Zelensky was speaking to a number of audiences. Obviously, his prime audience is President Trump. Another audience will have been the European allies, and as well, he was speaking to the whole room there. Look, I think, you know, what Zelensky is saying here is, even with, and this is what I think I heard, even with powerful friends, it's still not enough unless you have weapons. So I think that was a very clear message to President Trump. I've heard your words, but you've been inconsistent of what we need are your weapons. And from President Trump saying that he's going to continue to supply weapons to NATO, they'll buy them, and then they'll pass. And good luck to them. So in a way, President Trump is being a thorough. continue. That's what Zelensky wants. But then we also spoke about the need for international institutions, the width of international law, which he said is failing. International institutions are not a sort of favorite of President Trump, if you will. We look at the way that he pulled apart various sort of elements and ideas of the UN yesterday as just one example of that. A strong international institution. But I do think it was a very clear message that even with strong friends, unless they let those weapons get to you, cannot be effective. You don't have security.
For more on this, I want to bring in Benjamin Rath, who's a political scientist and senior fellow at the UCLA. Center for International Relations. Good to see you again. Thanks so much for being here with us. So I want to get to President Zelensky's address in a second, but first on President Trump's so-called shift on his position. I mean, what Trump said about Ukraine recapturing all its territory, and then administration officials like Vice President, Secretary of State, basically walking it back.
I think it reflects a shift in tone for President Trump, but unless there's policy to follow it, it doesn't necessarily reflect a shift in U.S. position and how it's approaching the Ukraine-Russia war. We're not hearing anything about an increase or renewed commitment to arms, to intelligence cooperation, anything other than either President Trump is exasperated with one side, which was Ukraine earlier this year, or now he's frustrated with Vladimir Putin, the Russian side. He'll vacillate between the two depending on whichever one seems to irk him at a given moment. But again, this is rhetoric, and I think all sides are seeing it that way. Though Zelensky certainly appreciates rhetoric is in his favor rather than more hostile tone that he got earlier this year.
Yeah, I imagine. Our reporting is that it's sort of a negotiating tactic by Trump. But if Putin responds to policy, not words, I mean, do you think he's seen or heard anything from Trump in the last day or so that might worry him a little?
I mean, if I were Vladimir Putin, there's really nothing yet to be concerned about. Even the threat of sanctions, which is something that President Trump floated several times now in recent weeks and months, has not come to fruition. He's, comes with conditions. for NATO allies to impose sanctions. They also have to impose them on China, which is the one buying Russian oil, and for the Europeans to reduce their consumption of Russian oil. So none of that's taking place. And again, we're not seeing an increase in any U.S. supplies or any commitment to Ukraine's territorial integrity demonstrated by action beyond rhetoric. And that's what Putin responds to. It's not that he doesn't respond. He does when he sees a shift in policy, but none of that's evident yet.
Okay, so if it all basically comes down to action, as you say, I mean, our reporter there said that Zelensky's real message to Trump was, even with powerful friends, you need weapons to be effective. I mean, do you agree? That's what Zelensky was really saying, that Trump's words aren't enough about actual hardware?
I don't think he's just saying that with respect to President Trump's words. I think Zelensky is telling the UN audience, it's very notable he made that statement there, that diplomacy and sanctions and working through the international legal process. Has gotten nowhere. Where it's brought the world no closer to peace and security and stability, and that the only thing that seems to matter with aggressors like Russia is the use of force and the willingness to stand up and resist their aggressive actions. And that's what he's looking for. And that's what he's telling the international community matters.
Yeah, I mean, he gave a pretty harsh assessment of the UN, I thought, basically saying that international law has collapsed and institutions are weak. I mean, it seems like a pretty bold thing to say while you're up there standing at the UN podium.
Indeed, and it is notable that President Trump basically echoed the failures of the UN during his very long address the night before, and I think it demonstrates again that the efficacy of the UN as a institution is not so much in the action, but it's the fact that it can convene all the people together in one space, give them a forum to talk. But at the end of the day, these discussions, these deliberations, these acts of diplomacy do not deliver justice, do not maintain peace. We've seen that now for decades. I mean, you have to go back to really the time of the Nuremberg trials to see a moment where that really was delivered. And in that instance, you had the Allied victors were the ones who administered justice. Absent a situation like that, it's difficult to see how this incarnation of the UN serves that same spirit. And I think Zelensky is just calling it as he sees it. He says what we really need are supplies that we can use, not words that we can just float about that don't really do.
For myself to go to the store because I go to make food and I don't have any. We're going to the store.
No. No.
So we're good to go, I think. You've done great, and this won't be a problem. No one is going to want to admit that anything happened here. According to my sources, well, Mr. Percival won't be successfully bidding on any government contracts and can't stop himself from being robbed. He'll be fine. Just going to require a little bit of finesse. 2 teams, chopper crew, ground crew, all of you will be flying in together. Ground crew is going to jump into the labs, set off the EMP, make their way toward the information we're after while the power is down. Chopper crew holds position in the air, deals with incoming security teams. Once the ground crew has what we're after, you coordinate an evac and meet my contact with the file. Are we clear? So remember, if we never meet again, we never met at all. I love you all, which is why it's best we pretend that nothing happened. And if it did happen, it wasn't me, and it wasn't me because I was never here. Stay strong. I love you all. Love you. And that's how we don't get caught doing naughty things.
Wednesday. Police are still investigating reports of drone sightings near at least 3 other airfields on Wednesday and Thursday. That's all happened after the similar sightings closed airports in Oslo and Copenhagen earlier this year. The Prime Minister noted similar suspected Russian drone incursions and airspace violations in Europe. Moscow denies any involvement. Along with world-renowned wildlife photographer Chris Fellows in Tanzania on the search for the next doctor looking into
Join me, Arkansas, as I introduce you to Africa's trendsetters. See how they use their talent to reshape them and catch them to make a difference on the continent. It's African Voices Changemakers.
Ex-Rachel Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie shares how she's redefining African storytelling on the global stage.
Do not think that somehow your story is not universal.
African Voices Changemakers on CNN.
Today, we live in an unpredictable environment that news races around the world at breakneck speed. Chancellor Merkel, welcome to the program.
I think that societies that suppress their women are least successful economically.
My show brings you the latest news and top newsmakers. Do you feel the Trump administration understands what's at stake?
I'll be honest.
No.
What do you tell people to know about what's happening?
And we also dive below the headlines.
What do you want the impact of this particular development?
Hmm.
casino and resort penthouses are available for purchase. And like everything else in life, you can do it online.
There's always a tension in those, but we. It's not the other way around. When you had 4 children, I was doing stuff I had to do. Go back and look in the mid-90s. I won't mention any movies. I'll just say the mid-90s around in there. A couple of kids. And a couple more than a couple for the kids and the wife in the house and the bank and everybody else. Can you handle the success? Can you handle the pleasure? Can you handle the lovers? Can you handle the memes? Can you handle everything that there is in between?
Washington's character is worried about the impact of tech and social media on his business. But the actor is glad he doesn't have to deal with all that.
If they see you for free all week, they won't pay to see you.
Everything that there is in between. Washington's character is worried about the impact of tech and social media on his business. But the actor is glad he doesn't have to deal with all that.
If they see you for free all week, they won't pay to see you on the weekend. Like being quiet. All those so-called Instagram accounts that my name's connected to it, you've been had. You've been chosen.
All right, I'm going to bed. All right. Which I have ice cream. Ooh, I have ice cream gumbo. I have icy cream.
This week on Call to Earth, we go on an epic journey with world-renowned photographer Chris Fallows.
All right, y'all have a great night, and I will see y'all tomorrow. I see you, Gumbo Wumbo.